Okay, so welcome to the Secret Strength Experiments course. And so this is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, something I've wanted to share with strength coaches and athletes in general, because we get asked a whole bunch of questions all the time about how are we so successful in such a small niche sport with Olympic weightlifting? How are we so successful in wrestling? How are we so successful in football? How are we so successful in throwing and all these other various sports? And we have incredible success, world championship caliber athletes in 3 sports, some would even say 4 coming up here. And then on top of that, how do we have Division I athletes going to Division I powerhouses for football every single year? How do we have athletes that are playing field hockey at the Division I level? How do we have athletes that are swimming and playing volleyball and playing soccer and all this stuff? And so what I wanted to share with you guys is that we've spent the last decade or more experimenting in our training system, trying to understand how every athlete's body works, how different sports and those athletes within those sports react to different stimuli, how shot putters might vary from wrestlers, or wrestlers might vary from football players, and football players might vary from swimmers, and then understand the training qualities behind each specific sport and each specific athlete, and then develop that system, the periodization model that we use around those athletes specifically. And so what we wanted to do is share the actual test. So we've got 20 different experiments that we've conducted. We've got way more than that in the bank, but there's 20 specific ones that are sort of like the root, the foundation behind Garage Strength and behind Garage Strength's training system. And we wanted to share that with you. And what we ended up doing is we put together 20 different experiments in a PDF. So you have the written copy, so you can see, okay, how long did it last? What was it exactly they were testing? What's the abstract? What was the experiment? How was the experiment developed? How long did it last? What were the results? And then what was my perceived application of those results and how we could apply it to training, and then did it work when we applied it to training? And in most cases, we're able to learn quite a bit. And so I trained under Anatoly Bondarchuk. I've worked alongside Charles Poliquin. And some of these guys would always say that the athletes are your best ways to learn. And so I had spent a whole bunch of time just reading. And finally it came down to the point is my athletes are my best means of learning, okay? And that's where these experiments started to come in. I started to experiment on myself as an athlete. I started to experiment on people who I would be talking to, like, hey, let's try and test this out, see what it does for your lifts. Let's see what it does for your sports performance. And so we conducted these over and over again. And that's what led to these secret strength experiments. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get tons and tons of information. You're going to get years of information where instead of spending a decade trying to develop this stuff and trying to test your athletes, you're going to get a decade of information just given to you. Okay, so you're going to get this handed to you, and you're going to get it from youth development to world-class development to general population development to increasing sports performance to increasing general strength to increasing front squat specifically, snatch technique, all these different things. And it's just going to be handed to you because we're taking this information over the last 10 years. We're taking the inspiration of Dr. B, and we're divvying it out so that you guys can have an understanding of how did we set up those experiments, how did we conduct those experiments, and then how did we apply those results so that we continue to make progress as strength coaches, as sports performance coaches, as throws coaches, and as weightlifting coaches.